You just spent 2 hours polishing your car. The paint looked amazing when you finished. Deep gloss. Incredible reflection. That wet look everyone talks about. You are proud. 3 weeks later, you notice it. The shine is gone. Swirls are back. The paint looks worse than before you started. And you're standing there confused because you used the products everyone recommended. You followed the process you saw on YouTube, and you put in the effort. So what went wrong? The answer is going to frustrate you because the mistake wasn't the products you bought or the time you invested. The mistake was using the wrong abrasive at the wrong time on the wrong paint. And this confusion between polish and compound, when to use each and why, is destroying more paint than bad wash techniques ever could. Most people think polishing and compounding are the same thing with different names. Or they assume compound is just stronger polish. Or they believe you always start with compound and finish with polish regardless of the condition of the paint. All of these assumptions are wrong, and all of them lead to the same outcome: unnecessary clear coat removal, premature paint failure, and results that don't last because you're treating symptoms instead of addressing the actual surface defects. This isn't about semantics or product marketing. This is about understanding what each abrasive does at the microscopic level and matching that function to the specific correction your paint needs. Let's start with what gloss actually is. When you look at paint and see deep reflection, what you're seeing is light hitting a smooth surface and bouncing back in organized patterns. Factory clear coat is smooth at the microscopic level. When light photons hit it, they reflect uniformly. That's mirror gloss. That's depth. But the moment you introduce surface imperfections, scratches, swirls, oxidation, marring, those photons scatter. Instead of reflecting cleanly, they diffuse in random directions. The result is haze, dullness, loss of clarity. Polishing and compounding are both methods of leveling the clear coat to restore that smooth, reflective surface. But they do it differently. They remove different amounts of material, and they're designed for different types and severities of defects. Here's what's really happening. Compound is an aggressive abrasive designed to remove significant clear coat material quickly. It uses larger abrasive particles that cut deep and fast. You use compound when you have heavy defects, deep scratches, severe oxidation, sanding marks from wet sanding, or extensive swirls and marring that can't be removed with lighter abrasives. Compound levels the clear coat by removing the peaks of damage down to the depth of the valleys, essentially cutting away damaged material until you reach a uniform surface. This is correction. This is material removal. And every time you compound paint, you're permanently thinning the clear coat. Polish is a finer abrasive, designed to refine the surface after compounding or to remove light defects that don't require heavy correction. It uses smaller abrasive particles that remove minimal clear coat while creating a smooth finish that reflects light properly. You use polish to remove the micro marring that compound leaves behind, to address light swirls and hazing, or to enhance gloss on paint that's already in decent condition. Polish is about refinement, not correction. It's the difference between using a belt sander and using fine sandpaper. Both remove material, but one is for shaping and the other is for finishing. And this is the part nobody explains. If you use compound when you only need polish, you're removing clear coat unnecessarily. Modern clear coat is only so thick. Most vehicles have between 2 and 4 mils of clear depending on the manufacturer and application process. Every time you compound, you're removing 0.5 to 2 mils depending on how aggressive you are, what pad you use, how much pressure you apply, and how many passes you make. Do that unnecessarily a few times over the life of the vehicle, and you run out of clear coat. You hit base coat? At that point, the only fix is a full respray of the affected panels, but if you use polish when you actually need compound, you waste time and you don't get results. Polish isn't designed to remove deep scratches. You can spend hours polishing a panel with heavy defects and you'll improve it marginally, but you'll never fully correct it because the abrasive particles aren't large enough to level the damage. You're essentially sanding a deep groove with fine sandpaper. It works, technically, but it's inefficient, and it creates a false finish where some defects are reduced while others remain, giving you an inconsistent surface that looks better in some lighting and worse in others. I've seen this repeatedly. Customer brings in a black car. They tried to polish it themselves. They used a finishing polish on a rotary or dual action with a soft pad. Spent 4 hours on the hood alone. The paint looks slightly better but still has visible swirls and marring. They're frustrated because they put in the work and didn't get the results. When I inspect the paint with a depth gauge and a swirl finder light, the defects are still there. They haven't been leveled. They've just been rounded slightly, which makes them less visible in certain lighting but doesn't actually remove them. Now they want me to correct it properly, which means I have to compound the paint anyway, making their entire effort redundant. The opposite happens just as often. Customer bought a heavy cut compound because they assumed more aggressive equals better results. They used it on paint that only had light swirls and minor marring. Now the clear coat is thinner than it should be. The paint has holograms and micro marring from the compound that they didn't follow up with polish to remove, and they've permanently reduced the amount of correction that paint can handle in the future. This is irreversible. You can't add clear coat back. Once it's gone, and this is where the industry has failed you. Automatic car washes and touchless systems create the defects that require correction in the first place. But that's a separate issue. The real problem is that product marketing has convinced people that they need to compound and polish. Every time they detail their car, kits are sold with both products included. Videos show full correction processes on paint that doesn't need it. Detailers upsell multi-stage correction when a single-stage polish would achieve the desired result. And consumers are left thinking that more steps and more aggressive products equal better outcomes, when in reality, they're just removing clear coat unnecessarily and creating dependency on repeated corrections. Let's break down some myths. Most people think you should always compound first, then polish, regardless of paint condition. False. If your paint only has light defects, you skip compound entirely and go straight to polish. Compounding is not a mandatory step. It's a correction step that you only use when correction is needed. Starting with compound on relatively clean paint is like sanding furniture that only needs a light buff. You're creating work that didn't need to exist. Then there's the myth that compound always leaves behind defects that need polishing. This is partially true, but misleading. A properly applied compound with the right pad, speed, and technique can finish down surprisingly well, especially modern compounds that are designed to break down during use, starting aggressive and finishing finer. But most people don't understand how to dial in their process, so they overwork the compound, use too much pressure, or choose the wrong pad, and they end up with heavy micro-marring that does require a finishing polish to remove. The issue isn't that compound requires polish. The issue is that improper compounding technique requires polish to fix the mistakes. Here's another big one. Polish doesn't remove clear coat, so it's safe to use as often as you want. Wrong. Polish is an abrasive. It removes material. It removes less material than compound, but it's still cutting the clear coat. If you polish your car every month because you like the instant gloss boost, you're slowly thinning the clear coat over time. It's not as aggressive as compounding monthly, but it's still unsustainable. The goal should be to polish only when necessary to address defects or refine after compounding, and to maintain that finish with proper washing and protection, not to repeatedly abrade the surface, because you enjoy the process. Most people also think that all compounds are the same and all polishes are the same, just different brands. Completely false. Compounds range from ultra-heavy cut products designed for sanding mark removal to medium-cut finishing compounds that blur the line between compound and polish. Polishes range from light finishing polishes that barely cut to heavy polishes that approach the cut of a light compound. There's overlap in the middle. A finishing compound might remove less clear coat than a heavy polish depending on the pad, machine, and technique. You can't just grab any product labeled compound or polish and expect consistent results. You need to match the abrasive to the specific defect level, paint hardness, and desired outcome. Now let's talk about the damage mechanism itself. When you compound or polish, you're using abrasive particles suspended in a liquid carrier. Those particles, combined with friction from the pad and machine, physically cut into the clear coat. Larger particles cut deeper and faster. Smaller particles cut shallower and slower. The carrier liquid provides lubrication to prevent excessive heat and helps suspend the abraded clear coat particles so they don't redeposit on the surface. As you work the product, the abrasive particles break down into smaller pieces, which is why compounds and polishes change behavior as you use them. Fresh product cuts aggressively. Worked product cuts less and begins to finish. If you're compounding paint that doesn't need it, you're removing clear coat from a surface that's already relatively smooth. You're not leveling defects. You're just thinning the protection. And because clear coat thickness isn't uniform across a panel, you might hit thin spots faster in certain areas, especially on edges, body lines, and high points where the factory application was thinner to begin with. Once you burn through on an edge, that area is permanently compromised. It will oxidize faster, it will show defects more readily, and it can't be corrected again without hitting base coat. If you're polishing when you need to compound, you're not removing enough material to level the defects. The scratches remain, the swirls persist, and because you've rounded the edges of those defects slightly, they catch light differently. In direct sunlight or under inspection lights, they're still visible. In diffused lighting or shade, they seem to disappear. This creates inconsistency. The paint looks good in your garage and terrible in the sun, and because you didn't actually fix the problem, the defects continue to accumulate every time you wash the car, making the situation progressively worse. Here's how to detect whether you need compound, polish, or neither. Wash and decontaminate the paint properly. Dry it completely. Inspect it under a bright LED light in a controlled environment. Look at the surface from multiple angles. If you see deep scratches that you can feel with your fingernail, swirls that are visible from several feet away, heavy oxidation or hazing, or sanding marks from previous work, you need compound. If you see light swirls that are only visible up close or in direct light, minor marring, or dullness without deep scratches, you need polish. If the paint looks good under inspection and you just want to enhance gloss or add protection, you don't need either. Just apply your sealant or coating and move on. You can also use the tape test. Apply a small piece of masking tape to the paint and burnish it down. Remove it and inspect the adhesive side under a light. If you see clear coat dust or residue, the paint is oxidized or contaminated and may benefit from polishing. If the tape is clean, the surface is in good condition. This isn't foolproof, but it's a quick field test that helps determine whether abrasive correction is actually needed. Certain factors make choosing the wrong product more damaging. Dark paint shows every imperfection. Black, dark blue, dark gray, these colors have zero tolerance for improper technique. If you compound when you should have polished, the micro-mooring you leave behind will be glaringly obvious. Soft paint, common on Japanese and some European vehicles, cuts is using compound unnecessarily on soft paint removes more material than the same process would on hard paint. You can burn through 2 base coats in a few passes if you're not careful. Hard paint, common on some German and American vehicles, requires more aggressive compounds to cut effectively, but it's also more forgiving if you overcorrect, because it has more clear coat to work with. So what's the fix? Start with the least aggressive product that will achieve your goal. If you're unsure whether you need compound or polish, test in an inconspicuous area with polish first. Work it properly with the right pad, machine speed, and technique. Inspect the results. If the defects are gone, you didn't need compound. If they're still there, step up to a light compound and test again. Only move to heavier compounds if lighter products aren't cutting effectively. This approach minimizes clear coat removal and ensures you're not doing more damage than necessary. Choose your products based on defect severity, not based on marketing or what's in a kit. If you have light defects, buy a finishing polish. If you have moderate defects, buy a light to medium compound and a finishing polish. If you have heavy defects, buy a heavy compound, a medium compound, and a finishing polish. Don't buy a single aggressive compound and try to use it for everything. That's like owning only a chainsaw and trying to do fine woodworking. The tool doesn't match the task. Use the right pad for the product. Heavier compounds require firmer pads with more cut. Lighter polishes require softer pads that finish better. Mixing the wrong pad with the wrong product creates unpredictable results. A heavy compound on a soft pad won't cut effectively. A light polish on a firm pad might cut more than intended. Follow manufacturer recommendations or established guidelines from experienced dealers, not from random internet advice. Learn proper technique, machine speed, pressure, product, amount, number of passes, and working time all affect how much material you remove and how well the product finishes. Most people use too much pressure, too much product, and too many passes, which causes excessive clear coat removal and unnecessary heat buildup. Light pressure, adequate product, and controlled passes give better results with less risk. Measure your paint before and after correction. If you're doing heavy work, a paint depth gauge costs $50 to $150 and it tells you exactly how much clear coat you have and how much you're removing with each step. If you're consistently correcting the same vehicle over years, this data is invaluable. It prevents you from burning through, and it helps you adjust your process to be less aggressive. Let's talk cost. A quality finishing polish costs $15 to $30. A medium compound costs $20 to $40. Pads cost $10 to $20 each. A dual-action polisher runs $150 to $400 depending on quality. Total investment to do single-stage polishing correctly is around $200 to $500. Compare that to professional multi-stage correction, which runs $300 to $1,500 depending on vehicle size and defect severity. If you're compounding your car unnecessarily twice a year because you think that's proper maintenance, you're spending money and removing clear coat for no reason. If you're polishing only when needed and maintaining the finish properly between corrections, you're extending the life of your paint and saving money long term. The takeaway is this: compound and polish are not interchangeable. They're not sequential steps you always use together. They're tools designed for different jobs. Compound removes material to correct defects. Polish refines the surface to enhance gloss. Use the least aggressive option that achieves your goal. Don't compound paint that only needs polish. Don't polish paint that needs compound. And don't do either if the paint is already in good condition and just needs protection. Every time you use an abrasive, you're removing clear coat. That clear coat is finite. Once it's gone, you're done. Technique and appropriate product selection matter more than brand names or expensive kits. If you've been compounding your car every few months because you thought that was normal, stop. Inspect your paint. Measure your clear coat thickness if possible. Switch to a maintenance routine that focuses on proper washing, decontamination, and protection rather than repeated correction. If you've been polishing when you actually needed to compound, now you understand why your results weren't lasting. Match the abrasive to the defect. Test first. Remove only what's necessary, and protect the finish properly so you're not creating a cycle of damage and correction that ends with paint failure. Let me know in the comments what products you've been using and whether you've been choosing them based on actual paint condition or based on what you thought you were supposed to do. If this explanation clarified the difference between compound and polish and changed how you'll approach paint correction, Hit the like button and subscribe for more technical content that exposes the myths and focuses on what actually preserves your paint long term. Next video, I'll be covering why your ceramic coating failed and how most people are applying them wrong from the start. Until then, inspect before you correct, use the minimum abrasive necessary, and stop removing clear coat you can't get back.